Tilaja, very excited and honored to be talking to you. And honestly, I want to call it out, not bringing the gender angle, but it's so amazing to see a woman heading Kinetic Green Energy and Power Solutions. And you started this in 2015. Tell us what has it meant, because now we are hearing about electric vehicles, but you started in 2015. What has the journey been for you from then to now?
So this project, Kinetic Green, is very close to my heart. Um, I started it because I wanted to do something which is pioneering, exciting, and most importantly, something which I believe can contribute to the society. So I come from this legacy of my family where, even Kinetic and all the businesses that we've always done things which have brought value to the common man. So starting with, of course, our Force Motors, or with that was when Bajaj Tempo, products like Matador, and others which are rural-oriented products, very popular. Kinetic Luna was India's most affordable two-wheeler ever. Gave wings to common man. We sold more than 50 lakh Lunas. Kinetic Honda, of course, also life-changing product. Gave freedom to women. So the family has always looked upon the business more as a way to contribute to the society, and my own legacy in that, and I wanted to build something of my own. Of course, very proud of where I come from and what it has given me, but something which I thought my own passion, my own creation, and I felt that the world is going green, and the younger people are extremely concerned about things like climate change.
Yeah.
Of course, there are these whole geopolitical reasons, and overall, globally there is an awareness about green technologies
Yeah.
and emission standards. And I felt that electric vehicles, which are zero emission, definitely have an important place in the future of automotive world. So it was a trend I spotted, and I wanted to do something pioneering early in this sector. So when I came into this sector, Kinetic Green got formed. Today, it's very hip to be in electric vehicle sector. It's very in, and everybody's is buzzing. But when we started, I was employee number one, and there was hardly anybody in the space, and there were hardly any believers. Believe me, there were more naysayers, than saying people who are saying this is the future. So it's been pioneering, it's been exciting, and it's been extremely rewarding, I would say.
Wow. Yeah, it also talks about your conviction and thinking long term, right? You could spot an opportunity which was there, but in India, anytime you talk, and still, if you talk about electric vehicles, there is this whole regulations hai, log kharidenge nahi, expensive hai. So there are many challenges which gets accounted rather than opportunities. And you saw this in 2015 and made it happen. Tell me, how has it been in terms of business, and how have you seen the Indian consumer evolve in the last few years?
So as I said before, when Kinetic Green came into being, electric vehicles was a new technology. There was hardly any supply chain locally, hardly any technology locally, hardly any awareness in the customers, and even hardly any government policy, which was clear about how to deploy electric vehicles. Everybody thought, they were good, and Tesla was, making an impact globally as, somebody who's like sort of, spearheading this whole transformation. But there was no clarity on what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think we have worked across all the different areas, starting with, of course, our first electric three-wheeler had 75% import content because there was nothing here in India.
Yeah.
Today, we are proud to say that we have close to 0% import content. We have completely localized
Yeah.
our design and our supply chain. So starting from design to developing supply chain, our own group companies have invested in, some of the backward integration into the core components. That entire, I would say, part of the whole development. We also have got government certification for our EV R&D. We are one of the few EV R&D labs which have been government DSR certified. Very proud of that.
Yeah.
So technology design was one whole area that we worked very, very close to the ground. The second thing is policy. The government has started creating some group for looking at electric vehicle policy. I went to this meeting, and I found that, they had appointed a consultant, Booz Allen, very leading global consultant, and they were all talking about electric cars, right? And I went there and I said, well, what about electric three-wheelers and what about electric two-wheelers? They looked at me and said, do you want to do that? Then, can you spearhead the subgroup for that? Let's get some dialogue going. So there was no thought about electric three-wheelers and two-wheelers. It was when because car was so top of mind, and we
Yeah.
were following the global route, right? US and China, where cars are more important. Europe, the society drives using cars. But in India, it's not the car that's going to lead electrification. And people in India, 85% people in India are on two-wheelers and three-wheelers and in buses. So the common man is not going to be impacted if you bring, few thousand electric cars. So I think we can also take credit that we worked very closely with the government, and brought the focus on what is now really the way forward, which is green mobility for the masses, green mobility for millions. And this
Yeah.
thought process that is going to be the two-wheelers and three-wheelers and buses, which are going to drive electrification. So I think a lot of work we did on bringing focus onto why these are the right segments and why India should have its own policy, and working closely with the policymakers on that. And third, rightly, as you said, customer. We made an electric three-wheeler. We put it out in the market, but there was hardly any awareness in the market. And as you said, customers had a lot of questions, a lot of apprehensions about electric vehicles, the battery, their longevity, their durability, reliability, and the cost was more than regular vehicles because you're buying the battery, which is like you're buying 3 years fuel upfront, right?
Yeah.
So we realized that we had to create customers as well, and we did a lot of innovative marketing. We worked with many government policy schemes actually, and tried to use electric three-wheelers, in those welfare schemes, promoting them as easy vehicles for women, as livelihood products, for unemployed. So we did a project in UP, for example, where we gave 10,000 e-rickshaws to cycle rickshaw pullers as
Wow.
means of better livelihood.
Wow.
And we work closely with the government. So a lot of innovative ways that we brought the product out. And now, of course, there is much more awareness. People are coming to our showrooms. But for the first 3 years, it was us creating pilots, test cases, and examples of how EVs can be used.
Yeah.
That's been wonderful too.
How much do you focus on R&D? How much do you focus on innovation? How much do you think about what's the future? Because what I keep on hearing from a lot of entrepreneurs in this space is that the investment that goes in the R&D to stay ahead in the space is extremely high and long.
Right. So, well, that's true for automobile business in general. And this is actually now cutting edge. So, even more so.
Yeah.
When people buy vehicles, they're buying a product, which of course is high involvement for that customer. It's a few months of his or her salary. It's also something where safety is an important aspect. Even brand image is important because you're sort of seen on that vehicle or in that vehicle, and you are projecting your own self-image. Your family is using it. So all these aspects make automobile technology extremely, how can I say, involved, right? It's not a product which is easily bought and used and thrown. It's not a
Yeah.
product, which is used for a short period. People expect automobiles to last for 10 years and, without any problem. So yes, R&D is the core of automotive business. And they say, that a good product also needs to be sold, but a bad product cannot sell, right? Plus, of course, we have a legacy, a brand. We have to ensure that, the products we bring out are befitting, the quality, the reliability that customers expect from it. And then last but not the least, we're in a new field where technology is changing rapidly and the space of innovation is only increasing. So yes, I personally spend a lot of my time on technology quality and also operations. So right now I'm sort of the hands-on CEO. Uh, though we have multiple companies in our group and I sit on a few boards, but I'm spending most of my time in actually shaping and running Kinetic Green as a founder and CEO. So very much involved in the nuts and bolts, um, very much involved in the feedback from the ground, on what is going right, what are the product issues. Because if you're not close to the ground, then you're not going to be able to really improve what needs to be improved.
Yeah.
I think in terms of domain knowledge, a lot of real practical knowledge is what I know I have been able to get. And when I look back, maybe after 10 years, this will be a exciting part of the journey, like sort of going back to my 20s, when I started doing this with the core business then, which is two-wheelers, and doing it again now in this new space. So I would say that technology, quality, product design is at the heart of automobile and especially EV now, and it's going to be a critical determinant of how the future shapes for us and for anybody in this industry.
How do you think of it when it comes to the electric part of the business? Because it is, you have to uphold all the successes, and this is new domain. So what do you think, and how do you look at the brand?
So very proud of the brand, and it's very close to my heart, very passionate about it. In fact, even when I went to the US after my studies and I was working there, it was for me, it was always that I'm going to be part of Kinetic, when I come back. And I relate to this brand, this family very, very closely. So Kinetic Green, also we see it as an extension, of the legacy of this brand. And as I was saying earlier, we're building on the core values of Kinetic. Kinetic has always been seen as as you said, iconic, innovative, yet reliable.
Yeah.
Uh, a brand, which it brings something which is advanced, but yet affordable to the customer. So that's our DNA, new technology, advanced technology, but within the reach of the common man. So that's the same theme we are kind of taking ahead in Kinetic Green, and it's working very well for us because people expect something innovative from Kinetic. So Kinetic bringing out electric products is something people feel, yeah, this makes sense to me. Like
Yeah.
if we take atta, Kinetic atta, people will say, well, what is this, right?
Yeah.
But if you make Kinetic advanced automotive products, it's something people say, yeah, this is what this brand does. And the second thing which we're building on is, as I said earlier, what you can call frugal engineering, right? Which means you bring an advanced technology, but you make it affordable and bring it within reach of the masses.
Yeah.
And that was also the philosophy of Luna and Kinetic Honda. And the same thing we are doing here. That we are always looking at how we can make this product exciting, convenient, but affordable for people. So I think we are building on the core values of our brand, and Kinetic Green is an extension of Kinetic. So it's kind of going quite beautifully. And there's also kind of a nice ring to it. Like my nephew was 6, 7 years old. Um, he had come to see the factory with my brother. And when he saw the whole factory, the entire Kinetic, we have a large estate in Ahmednagar. The thing which he really picked up on was Kinetic Green.
Wow.
And, so it's kind of has a nice ring to it, and it appeals to people. Kinetic Green makes sense. So
Yeah, there was an article, an interview of yours in Hindu Business Line, and they, you mentioned about COVID, the impact of COVID, and you said that before COVID, also the automotive sector was a little bit impacted. Tell us, how have you seen like the last 15, 16 months, and what are you seeing now? Is there any improvement?
so certainly there has been a blip for everyone. And especially the lockdown periods have been particularly challenging because there have been disruptions. Either it's your team members you're concerned about, some of them are affected, their families are affected, your supply chain is affected. And even if you don't have one or two parts, you cannot make the complete automobile, right? So you're dependent on the entire ecosystem. The many months our dealerships were shut down, and unfortunately, after the market opened, some of our dealer partners had suffered great losses, maybe in their other businesses, right? Like MSMEs have really gone through a tough time. So they were not able to really revive in the way that they wanted to. So the whole family, I mean, it's a large family that, we are working together with, whether it's a dealer partner, supply chain, our own employees, and of course, the users of our vehicles. Now, for example, we are focused on electric three-wheelers.
Hmm.
Customers who had bought our three-wheelers, who are meant to deploy them for last mile connectivity, metro was closed, buses were closed. So there was hardly any demand for shared mobility.
Yeah.
The customers were not able to deploy the vehicles and earn a living. The batteries they could not charge because they had to sometimes abandon the vehicle. Many of them had to go back to they were migrants. So there has definitely been impact on the business. But at the same time, I think what the pandemic has done is that it has made everybody more environment and health conscious.
Yeah.
It's allowed people to kind of sit back and think on what's important. Um, and I feel that sustainability and a better planet for our future generations has become top of mind for people.
Yeah.
So I think that means that products like electric vehicles is something that people as a society, we have somehow become more conscious about making the right choices and about sustainability. That's going to help the sector in the long run. And second thing that is happening is that, this whole new home delivery, right, has come up as a large opportunity.
Yeah.
And we are working very closely with some of the e-commerce companies now and their third-party logistic partners for whom sustainability is focused and for whom electric vehicles make a lot of sense because electric vehicles are much cheaper than the diesel vehicles.
Hmm.
So an EV costs about 40 paisa per kilometer for a delivery, and a diesel vehicle might cost even 4 rupees. So it's one tenth of the cost.
Yeah.
So this new opportunity, maybe shared mobility was under pressure, but last mile logistics and delivery has come up in a very big way. And we have kind of, in the pandemic, focused our efforts also on bringing out more products for last mile logistics. We in fact also developed vehicles which could do spraying and fogging operations, using an EV. So
Yeah.
completely green and silent. So we've customized our product focus. We have innovated, and of course, we have stayed afloat in a sense that because Kinetic Green is like a startup in a way, we are not burdened with a lot of legacy issues of, which have impacted some of the larger businesses. So because we are agile and we are new, we're able to kind of, pull through. So certainly we are pulling through and we are bullish about the future.
Financing, electric vehicle financing is going to be important. And I've been speaking to some people and they said it's still not there. In fact, some people I know are planning to start an NBFC in electric vehicle financing. What do you think? And do you have plans to get into financing?
So I think it's part of evolution, and it's true that currently there has been dearth of financials financing electric vehicles. But I have seen the same thing in normal uh, ICE vehicles as well. In around 95, 96, all of us had our own NBFCs because retail banks were not financing two-wheelers because they were sold in many many small locations and retail finance was just coming up. So people were focusing on credit cards first, and then setting up retail branches and then cars, right? But from around 98 onwards, all the banks jumped into retail financing because it was very profitable. And then now, of course, there's no looking back. All banks and NBFCs are financing two-wheelers and three-wheelers, etc., etc. I think something similar is happening in electric vehicles because it was a small part of the sector. It was being neglected by the leading banks and NBFCs, and they had kind of not thought about it too much. And whenever you spoke to them, they had more concerns that what about resale value, what about A, B, Z, X, Y, Z, right? And then we were trying to come up with solutions saying, okay, we will build a delinquency fund, we will do this, we will do that. But I think that the trend is going to change now because as there is more and more acceptance of electric vehicles being the future,
Yeah.
and as the numbers pick up, and as people like me and others in the sector are talking to banks regularly and addressing their queries. I also chair FICCI's National Electric Vehicle Committee. So through FICCI also we have been approaching the banks and creating awareness about how electric vehicle technology is emerging and why they need not be concerned about the issues that they're bringing up because quality is better, warranty from manufacturers is there, etc. Like for example, in electric three-wheelers, typically loan period is 3 years.
Hmm.
And the vehicles which are under FAME, the government scheme that is promoting EVs, which are approved under FAME, like our own three-wheelers, are coming with 3-year warranty on vehicle and battery compulsorily.
Hmm.
The banks, they don't need to be concerned about the technology because there's a manufacturer warranty.
Yeah.
So this information is not available. They're coming from some other earlier information about lead acid batteries which last only a year, etc. So there's a need to build awareness.
Huh.
Awareness is getting built and market is getting built. So I think this will change, and I think in the next 2 to 3 years a situation will come where there will be a lot more supply of finance for electric vehicles. In fact, I tell banks that look, it's a great opportunity for you. For normal vehicles you're lending at 17-18% IRR. For electric vehicle, because there is less competition today, the IRRs for banks are 25 to 30%. You can
Wow.
make huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Those who are jumping in it are going to make more money. Eventually, the returns will get normalized. So I think this is a obstacle that the industry is facing, but it will change. Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah. I'm sure people like you would be pushing it. It benefits the country, it benefits everyone, it benefits the consumers. Yeah. Suleja, startups have boards, and they have ambitious targets and quarter on quarter targets, and big audacious numbers. Do you also put yourself to that okay, I have to have a very strong growth year on year, quarter on quarter, and do you track yourself, and how do you go about doing that?
So, in fact, okay, in a sector like electric, right, which is like a disruptive sector, there are two kinds of models people build, right? One is, the typical startup way, where, you go ahead and raise money, you go seed funding, venture funding, growth funding, and you keep raising more and more money. And you focus on building a kind of a volume, maybe you're burning a lot of cash, right? Sort of the typical fintech or e-commerce kind of way, and then waiting for the scale to come and then the market to evolve, and then you can look at some kind of a alliance or exit consolidation, that sort of stuff, right? The other way is to build honest business, where you look at, okay, I need to build a business which is sustainable. I want to make cash flow. I want to make profit. I want to build the business as a long-term sustainable business, right?
Yeah.
So I have chosen the latter. There are companies in our space who are typically the startups, who have been raising a lot of capital, and following that valuation route, if I can call it that, and probably hoping for a consolidation kind of an exit, right? And that's going to that's going to happen. People who have jumped early into the sector, have created technology and some kind of a presence. There will be other players who will come and say, look, I need to do this. I don't have 3 years. I'm going to buy this company. Right?
Yeah.
So that's one route, right? But we are here for the long run, right? So we have built a business which is focusing on margins, cash flows, network, localization, all of that. So yes, we are looking at performance. We are looking at burning minimum cash, but building a sustainable business. And so far, I'm proud to say that all the funds in Kinetic Green have been invested, by me. We have not gone out and raised money. We will do that when we feel that, okay, now we are ready for a massive accelerated scale up, and we can deliver the returns to the investors who come in. So that's how I've kind of built it, kind of a mix of the traditional thought process and the startup way, both.
Yeah, no, but very, very impressive. That's the way, right? Like, that's the way to build long lasting, strong businesses. Uh, that brings me to the question that do you, being a startup, electric, green startup yourself, do you engage with startups? Do you have any program where you engage, work, collaborate with young companies in this space?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, it's a nice way for me also to keep in touch with what the young entrepreneurs are thinking. Number one, because they come up with very innovative ideas, right? I mean, see, sometimes what happens, I feel that I've been in the industry for so long, and we also do get, I don't write the word, it's not clouded, but we build a certain set of beliefs based on past experience. But I'm in a disruptive sector now, so things may not be the same. Different business models are evolving in this sector, so it's important to really stay in tune, with what's actually happening. But more importantly, it's such a exciting space, and it's such a disruptive time that I think that it's time for new heroes and new unicorns to be born. After 100 years in automobile sector, which has all been about scale, so big companies became bigger, smaller companies, ended up taking a small part of the, some niche business. It's all been about who can make the biggest investments, who can have the largest factories, who can have global linkages. But I think an opportunity has come now where the market is getting disrupted,
Yeah.
and it's a chance for new ideas and for new heroes to be born, like we have seen in retail, right? What happened to Walmart, Sears, it's now the Amazons and these companies. We've seen in smartphones,
Yeah.
uh, Nokia, Samsung, Nokia, Motorola, etc., have given way to the new smartphone companies, and so many other opportunities, in the related areas. Look at energy, what's happening. It's a time for disruption. So I think in EV space also there will be time for new heroes to be born. And I would, and it will happen through collaboration. Right? If people work together, support each other, then we can actually take the sector ahead. And I would love to see new billionaires come out of, of this disruption in the automotive world. So I think that it makes sense, to create such opportunities, and it's very rewarding to be part of such dialogue. And
Wow.
somehow the younger people, they look up to us because we've been in the industry. So whatever we can share with them, whatever learnings we can share with them, and whatever we can take from them as well, it's just, it's absolutely mutual.
I don't know. I did my research and maybe I haven't done it properly, but I didn't find many women uh, heading the automobile businesses, or being at the forefront of not just automobile but electric, green movement in India. I want to understand that, in your role, in the place you are in, how is it, how does it, do you think we as a country have changed, or do you still sometimes feel that we have a journey to make when it comes to women CEOs, women founders, and women, you know leading from the front?
Um, I also feel that, it's part of evolution, right? In a sense that where we were 100 years ago and where women are today, definitely women have made progress. Unfortunately, in our country, there are many other aspects, which are hampering the development or growth of women. Like you go to rural areas, they're fighting totally different battles.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to be done even on issues like violence against women and basic rights, education, equality. So there's a long way ahead. But if I look at the urban India, and some of the larger cities where women are getting educated and are coming forward, I think more and more women are making a mark in the uh, professional world. More and more women are taking their careers, at the forefront of their own, let's say, planning of the life journey. Earlier, women would get educated; they would be the toppers in school, but then once they get married, they would drop off, or once they have kids, they would drop off.
Yeah.
Now we are seeing more and more women saying, "No, no, no, I want to continue working. This is important to me,"
Yeah.
and they are becoming role models, in the process for other women to follow. So I think it's a part of evolution, and I think therefore more and more women are going to come ahead, in and prove their mettle. They are in no way less capable. They are in no way, less deserving. It's
Yeah.
just the society takes time to evolve and change, and this is what is happening. And whatever we can do, people like you and I, who've been fortunate
Yeah.
have this opportunity which we are able to carve out for ourselves. Maybe as a part of our life journey we made some right choices, or we were fortunate. Whatever we can do to promote that dialogue, I think it's important. Sometimes women don't know that they have this voice, or how to get across the difficulties that they face, and they need that little bit of an inspiration, or that little bit of a idea. Like for example, when I'm also a mother, right, when my child was born, I did face an internal battle that I wanted to be a full-time mom and I wanted to be a full-time professional, and what to do.
Yeah.
Then I said that, look, this is important to me, and my own initial self motivation. I said I'm going to do be both. I'm going to be a full-time mom and I'm going to be a full-time professional. So I did overcome that, and if I just share that story, saying that, look, you can do it,
Yeah.
but it should come from within. And then you communicate with your family members and explain to them that, look, you really want to do this and you need their help, slowly, and what you're bringing home, in terms of, whatever is your economic contribution or whatever else is your contribution, it's valuable.
Yeah.
So I feel that this is a journey and this is part of evolution. Automobile sector also the same, it's been very male dominated. In fact, when I came into Kinetic, when I came back from the US, we didn't have a ladies toilet in R&D because
Wow.
there were never any women in R&D. There were only men. There was never a ladies toilet in our factory, right? So, starting from that, it is not that anybody meant to be discriminated, but that's just how things were. But yes, it's a journey, and we have to do what we can. And I think that more and more women will come forward, as time progresses.
How do you look at your own decision making, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as someone running a business which is evolving, in a space which is evolving, and you would have to manage so many different stakeholders. There's so many things. How do you, go back within yourself, or as a team, when you have to take critical decisions? How do you look at decision making?
So my grandfather was my hero. He passed away in 1995, and I have a picture of him on my desk. and along with his office bag, which he used to carry. Um, and when I'm faced with a dilemma or a challenge, I actually look at his photograph and I say, what would Dadaji have done?
Oh, that gives me goosebumps.
And how he would have guided me. He was a wonderful person, loved by many, very kind hearted, and a true entrepreneur. And I do go back to that. So it's like I'm speaking to myself, but imagining that he's there guiding me as well. Secondly, of course, my father is a great support to me. He is himself an amazing automobile entrepreneur. He's created these life-changing products, the Luna, Kinetic Honda, and he is very supportive of electric mobility. I do, of course, rely on him for advice as well. But I think lastly, I think sometimes you do go through self doubt when you're taking decisions. And then I used to earlier have this habit of not making a decision because I'm not sure about the decision. And then
Hmm.
I consciously worked on myself to say that, look, you need to decide and move on. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but at
Yeah,
least moving ahead. And in a sector like ours, you have to do that because things are changing rapidly.
yeah,
So I think you just have to take that call and hope that you're right. And in retrospect, you also learn through your journey that so even if things go wrong, it's like they say success is not final and failure is not final and success is also not final. So there's always a way to change your course if you have made a wrong choice at some part of your journey. So I no longer feel fear in making decisions because I know that okay, there'll be some other opportunity to
hmm,
change course. So that comes from experience, I think. Having succeeded, having failed,
yeah,
and you learn from failure, saying that okay, I did so badly at this point in my life, things were so bad, but I could come out of it, and look, I'm fine now. I'm moving ahead.
yeah,
So this also will be is just a step in the journey. It's not a final
yeah.
point in the journey. Yeah.
What's your big dream, vision with Kinetic Dream?
So really, really keen for this business to become, a big force in green mobility for the masses. Would love to see a kinetic green in every Indian home. Would love to save thousands of rupees for Indian commuters, who are spending money on petrol.
Hmm.
Would love for them to appreciate, what this brand means to them. And as a result, create a company which is seen to be successful. Like, look, I know that this is early days, right? And I know there'll be a lot more competition. It's still just 5 years in the sector. We have made a niche for ourselves. There will be many challenges, and entrepreneurship is exciting but it's challenging as well. I really want to be able to say that look, I've created this new baby, and it's scaled up successfully, and it's an important part of this Indian ecosystem. So really bullish, like really excited about it, really involved in it, giving it all I have, and hoping that it makes a difference to lives of people. Yeah.
So, Lija, very, very, very inspiring. It just feels like such a wholesome conversation. It was, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
That I felt like I was talking to a friend.
Yeah, same here. And thank you. I'm very inspired. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.